How are we doing, Kansas Jayhawks fans? This is your host, Nick Rondeau, bringing you Jayhawks Daily content, and we're here to talk about something coming up this season, next season, even the season after that in some cases, and just kind of some previews and what we've been hearing, everything around the news. And first off, we're going to start with a potential 2027 recruit. We talked about him before in the pod, but we're going to bring it up again because we had a little update in his recruiting cycle, and that's going to be Javon Bardwell, and he's down to his top four already, which I know people are crazy. People, in this class haven't even announced their top four. Some people are, they just want to get it out early. They want to get ahead of it. They know exactly what they want, and a lot of that could be because maybe some people, like Javon Bardwell, have already visited their school that they want to choose, like Kansas back in September. I don't know, but that's the thing. So he announced his top four schools, and that's going to be in between KU, like I said, already visited September, USC, Texas, and Louisville. And I know it seems like Louisville's in all these conversations. And then, before Patino, or like post Patino, I feel like we weren't getting any of these. And now Pat Kelsey has somehow revitalized everything that Louisville basketball stands for. And they had a great season, obviously, so it makes sense. But they're in the conversation as well. And, who wouldn't want this guy? Because after seeing the tape, he just keeps growing. And I don't actually mean physically, which is true. He is growing. But, he's up to 6'7" now. But his skill set is growing immensely. I mean, he's just got such a great handle, and the way he kind of attacks the rim, it's very impressive for someone, obviously, everyone at that age, you've got to make a mark in some way. But Javon Bardwell is making quite a mark. Like we said last time, he's already got, over 15 Division I offers on the table, and he's already down to his top four. It's impressive, but maybe it means you never know. Some people, they like to reclassify. Some people, but, that's something I'm not going to put words into someone's mouth, but definitely looking into something along those lines. And, he got offered in mid-August and visited in September, and it seems like Kansas is really the team making the biggest push, in my opinion, which seems great. But, there are conflicted opinions. 24/7 Sports has Texas and USC as the clear favorites, and, kind of has the cooling, tag next to Bardwell. But, Rivals has Kansas has a 99% chance of his commitment. Granted, they haven't taken into account the top four announcement, but I don't know how that could really hurt their prediction. But again, 99% is a little too much for me. But, he clearly has a lot of potential that everyone is seeing, and everyone really wants to get that 2027 already out on the board and, kind of set up that recruiting class in a way that, why not? Yes, we just got TK. And, mentioning with TK, he's going to be playing in the OTE league. He's still, TK still be playing in this for his, senior season, and he's going to cross paths with Javon Bardwell. It just happens. That a lot of people are playing in that league. That seems to be a big progression at this point, and KU is very much getting their hands dirty by doing a lot of recruiting there, which just makes sense because it's a very good developmental league where people are flocking to. So I think I like to see, who wouldn't like to hear your team's finally in the top four for anybody. And I can't take whose word over another, but I definitely think there's a good chance we could be maybe scratching one off the board for 2027 sometime soon. You don't just drop the top four and then not talk about it for a year. So keep the ears peeled, and I will for you guys as well for Javon Bardwell potentially. Bringing that consistent. He's just so quick he's just very quick with his first step. He's very good with his hands. That's something impressive for a guy of that kind of size, and I think it probably plays into the fact that he grew so much. Played at that point role, and now has kind of developed up to that small forward where he's still got a great shot. He'll have to develop that jumper, but that comes with the territory. But we're definitely excited to see that top four announcement for Javon Bardwell. And that brings us into what I think is going to be a Bryson breakout year. Bryson Tiller. We're going to play off that little OTE connection. I am so happy that we've got Bryson Tiller. And so for those who don't know, I haven't kind of like narrowed in on him yet. I haven't given him too much hype, but I've seen some of your comments. I've seen some of the news out there, and I'm not going to be a fool. This guy is going to be a star for Kansas. May not be this year. I think the year after he's going to absolutely establish himself, but I think within the first 15 games, Bryson Tiller will have an impact on one of them because he's just the perfect four. And that's the thing. So just to get into him, he's a freshman, but he enrolled back in January. So he's been with the KU program and with Bill Self's system in the gym, learning everything he can since last January. So he's still going to be that freshman, but he was the number 42 ranked player in the 2024 class. That sounds so weird when he's coming into 2025, but he enrolled early. He's a 6'9" player with a 7'3" wingspan. We love wingspans here. That I can tell a lot. He doesn't have the typical, prototype of a shot blocker, I would say, but when you've got a 7'3" wingspan, you just inherently can block shots. And what was most, I would say, exciting about the prospect of him and what he really brings to KU is a four-man who rebounds the way he does. He's got a 9'3" standing reach, so he's already pretty much off the backboard coming to get it. He's got 11-inch hands. He just is a physical specimen that says I'm a rebounding grinder. So I'm very excited about that. But another thing, coming off of what Bill Self even said, he's great from 17 feet and in. He's expanding to the three-point range, and he's going to have to, and that's why he's been in the gym. Bill Self said this, when they got him back in January, and yes, he was kind of nursing the ankle injury, which makes sense, but he was with the KU trainers, with everybody. He had a development plan, he had a recovery plan, and everything that kind of led to this point. And just a little bit more about Bryson Tiller, because this is what it's all about. It's the shine on him today. And, he was the youngest player to sign with OTE when it was his sophomore year in high school. And he was the first sophomore to do it. And to maintain college eligibility, because you can get paid in that program, he waived his $100,000 guaranteed contract because he wanted to go to college, but Kansas, come on, everyone wants to go to Kansas. I would waive that money and then go to Kansas, and yeah, sure, now you can get paid for NIL and other things, but that's besides the point. And it's very exciting to see that Bill Self has got his hands on what could be an excellent stretch piece for KU, and especially looking this year. Darren Peterson's going to need all the help he can get, all hands on deck, whatever the transfers can kind of do for him, whatever these freshmen can do for him. I just love having these three OTE guys coming in the same class, with Cole Rosario reclassifying to go up, with Samus Calderon. Those are both another two top 100 prospects, and then we got Bryson Tiller as well. Those guys have a lot of familiarity with each other. People saying the OTE Jayhawks, I don't know if they are, but it's exciting with a guy with his frame, his kind of skill set, and just his explosiveness. He is an absolute stud. Yeah, like I said, not the prototypical shot blocker, but the way he can rebound as efficiently as he does kind of at the block. He'll still get 1.2 blocks a game. I think he had that in the UAAs, but, in 1.6 in the blocks per game in the OTE regular season. But it's just he's kind of a mismatch. When he gets in that pick and roll, which I think let's rely on the Darren Peterson pick and roll. That's going to be the early bread and butter. He can pop off that. He can really pop off that. But getting, eight boards a game, not 9.4 rebounds a game in OTE last year, or in his last year with OTE, that's exactly what you need as a great defender, a great rebounder to work off that glass. Don't always put it back up yourself. Maybe dish it out, but with a great left hand, with a great lefty finish, and just he likes to kind of face up. Is a lot of what I was looking at of his film. It's not kind of post hooks, typical post moves, drop steps, everything like that. He loves to kind of face up the defender and kind of use his skill set there. He's got a quick jab and he'll blow by you, but he doesn't need to blow by you because he's got that jump shot. Bill Self even said that 17 and in, that's a perfect range for him. He'll extend it out to the 3-point line, and if that guy can shoot over 33%, even over 30% from three, that's going to stretch the floor. A couple of takes a game. It's going to draw the defensive out, get him away from Flory, get him away from Mbaya, keep him away from DP as best as you can. And I'm expecting a very big year out of Bryson Tiller this year. And I very much am hoping that is going to lead to an excellent sophomore campaign from him in the 2027 season. So maybe he's linking up with Javon Bardwell, with Taylon Kenny, the year after. I'm loving that. I think it could be good. Maybe it's the year after Javon Bardwell, like I'm saying. But I love Bryson Tiller coming up this year. Next, we're going to go into a little bit about, this upcoming season again, because, we had a little bit about a couple seasons out, what's going on this season. Well, we got to look at 2026 still, and we've got another great prospect, another 4-star recruit in Ikene Eloier. and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but he's a 6'2 guard, about a 6'6 wingspan, 4-star recruit, 27th ranked in the ESPN, I think 46 or 45 somewhere out there in the 24/7 sports. But this guy is an elite defender. I mean, very few guys, I would say, come up to the college level and will already be there physically. Some people, yes, they've got their jumper, they've got, their handle, they've got something about the game of basketball that brings them. But you still have to go in the gym. You got to work hard. You got to, get a little bit of gains to fully play that man's game of basketball. And this guy meets all of that. He is a presence when it comes. And for a guy his size, like I said, 6'2", he got over 6.5 rebounds a game. That's not a huge size to be grabbing over 6 rebounds a game. He is fighting for those rebounds. He's absolutely grabbing and clawing to do whatever he takes. So we love a rebounding guard. We love a very tough guy. How do we not love a tough defender? We just saw DeJuan Harris for the past 4 years being an absolute stud on defense, not letting anyone put that ball on the ground without getting a hand on it. So I really like the potential of, Eloier kind of, and, he's a 4-star, he's a later kind of recruit. He could be staying for more than 1 year, You never know where these one-and-dones come from, but you kind of do have a clue that those guys in that, deeper 30 to 40-plus range in the ESPN rankings, it's highly unlikely they're going to be the one-and-done type. So these are the developmental players, the Trent Perrys who we've got for next year, which, kind of makes some competition, but it's gonna be an interesting kind of play. See how he views KU in this, and that kind of gets into our last topic of the day, which is the kind of competition we got for him. And he's got a top 8. He announced that in June before the summer. He announced his top 8: Alabama. We've got Arizona, Gonzaga, Houston, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisville again, and Washington. But that brings only 4 visits. So that's why KU's in the visits. And, I'm not saying he's got that other 4 are completely scratched out. That is not the case. Sometimes, there's unofficial visits that happen where people are enjoyed. But we're in one of the official visits, along with he visited Alabama earlier in September. He's going to have Arizona the week before us, so October 10th. We're October 17th, and then he's visiting Houston the week after that. So kind of spaced out his Bama visits, and, kind of listening to some of the buzz that we're hearing about him. I'm a little surprised by what some of the media are saying. They're saying that, Kansas isn't a great fit for him. They say, just because he's that, shorter, rebounding, tough defender, that's Kelvin Sampson guard written all over it. That's Jamal Shed reincarnated. And there's many truths to that. But you can't tell me that they're not hardworking, absolutely, two-way kind of guards that have run through Kansas over the last 20 years that Bill Self has been running this program. So I just think that's a little bit short-sighted. But, yes, he has a very quick pace. He loves to get that ball. He loves to attack. He very much is attacking the rim. He from Arizona, and he does have that, the Arizona connection. He's got that visit, but apparently people aren't saying that's as strong. They're saying maybe that's closer to a 4th choice. He's more of a top 3 according to the media websites. But, he is from Arizona. How can you deny someone saying they could want to stay in that home state kind of program? But, he had 1.4 steals in the EYBL. Like I said, a big rebounding guard. It's just his shooting is not quite there yet. 75% from the free throw line, that's fine. Not great for a guard, but 26% from 3. So he's going to have to kind of, whether it's mechanics or kind of confidence, what he's got with that jumper, a little bit streaky, but, I could easily see him developing that at a very, high level, especially whatever programs he chooses. Kansas, we're hoping. But, that's going to come with everything. And like I said, when you're kind of not getting that one quality, maybe the shooting on it, but you're getting the physicality, the elite defensiveness, the rebounding, I'll take the other parts and we can kind of shape that shot. We can figure it out. But, is he going to be the Kelvin Sampson type guard, the perfect fit, the physical defender? Is he going to be like a Nate Oates run and gun, quick runner, get to the layup line? I mean, you never know. I do think Kansas has a very strong handle on this. I think they're doing a great job kind of recruiting it. And this is again why I'll say it again and again. This is why Tony Bland was brought in. We need a West Coast connection. We need somebody who's worked in those staffs, who's been out in those, California kind of Arizona-based leagues. Those are the guys really scouting, and you cannot discount the fact that Bill Self took it upon himself. We needed to get a guy like Tony Bland in here. Yes, we had people stepping down. Norm Roberts. God, I love Norm Roberts. But, we need to fill those shoes. And a lot of today, we got to get people out, boots on the ground to see these recruits. And I think Tony Bland's going to be doing a good job of that. And we're hoping, Eloier is going to keep KU in the mix for as long as we can. He'll probably make another cut down, whether it's a top 6, whether it's a top 4. But, I'm assuming it will probably come around one of these visits. And sometimes he could scratch one off the list. So, if he wants to scratch off hometown Arizona, he never schedule that Gonzaga visit, whatever you want. Just keep KU in the mix. We could love another defensive guard, help Talon Kinney out. We're just looking for whatever we can get, KU fans, because that's what we need. We love a project more than anything, but we love championships, and we want to keep adding to the banner right there. 2022, it's getting far away for me, maybe. I don't know. No, we can't be too hard, but I appreciate you guys for listening. That's all we got here today. I'll keep hearing out for whatever we've got coming this weekend, next week. Love the Kansas Jayhawks, and just like, comment, subscribe. Very much appreciate it. We're over 100 subscribers, so thank you guys. Rock Chalk.